FC25 Realism sliders and settings following title update number 9. If you have been struggling with the gameplay, if you are not enjoying the gameplay as much, if you are like me, are barely getting any kind of enjoyment out of this game, well, this is the video for you, because this helps make the game more realistic. The sliders and the settings you'll be seeing here today will somewhat aid you in your experience of playing the game and hopefully make it way more playable than it currently is. So if you're looking for that, make sure to stick till the end of the video. Personally, this has been a very difficult video to make. This update in itself has changed so much. It has changed so much in a negative way, in a way that we did not ask for change to occur. Of course, we're always asking for updates for them to fix what they have actually broken, but they continue to somehow find ways to break more stuff. Not great. And the mechanics, just the core mechanics in the game right now, are the worst they have been. Now, exclusively for members, I threw out some screenshots of some sliders that I was using at the time, and of course, if you want exclusive Realism slider and setting content, make sure to be a member, link in the description box below. But I threw them out and I got some reviews and people were not as pleased as they usually are, but that's just because of the current state of the game right now. So it's taken me a while to get to the slider set that you'll be seeing in today's video. However, I don't know how to feel about that because, some sources out there stating that title update 10 is just around the corner. Now, that's exciting because that gives it an opportunity for the gameplay to get better. It could get worse. Let's not forget that side of the coin. It could get worse, but we're trying to be positive, hoping that it gets better because, come on, how much worse can it get from here? But we finally have settings that make this somewhat enjoyable. So I hope you guys do go on to enjoy them. And if you do, please drop a like on the video and subscribe as well. I'd greatly appreciate that. Now, a few weeks ago, I had a video where I was just breaking down and tearing into EA and FC25 and just the current state of things. And similarly, I've had to tear down and break down all the sliders from the very beginning to build them ground up. Usually, we have a base and we just modify a few things for every update. Not now. This is a complete overhaul. Some settings may be similar, some settings may be different, but we had to break down each individual setting and analyze it, and it's taken me a while to bring this video to you guys. So let's jump straight into the game settings. The first setting, world class difficulty. That's all I'm playing on. I'm not playing on legendary, I'm not playing on ultimate. World class difficulty, no player-based difficulty, no competitor mode. Okay, none of those stuff, just pure world-class difficulty. Now, the reason is on Legendary and on Ultimate, the game just, especially the AI, just do animations that you just cannot cope with. You just simply cannot cope with, and they like to throw the word scripting out there. I don't really like to, but it is in the game because the game is coded to a degree, right? That is just way more prevalent on the higher difficulties. Now, that's been the case for years of EA and FIFA, but right now it's the worst it's been, specifically with this build of the game. So on Legendary and on Ultimate, you find situations where your defenders just move out of position. They just run away from the guy that is running through on goal. They just leave space intentionally for whatever reason. Even your defenders that you aren't controlling, like your AI controlled teammates, they just start moving out of position and stuff. You find that you'll keep tackling the ball and not win the ball back at all, no matter what slider set you choose. That's what tends to happen on the high difficulties. Now, world class isn't as challenging, but it's way more realistic. So these settings have been geared around world-class difficulty mainly. Now, I'm not saying they 100% don't work on Legendary. They just don't work on Legendary for me. Now, the gameplay tab is, of course, custom wind effects. We've changed that down to low. We've had it on medium probably throughout all of FC25, but now we've changed it down to lower so that it had a few instances where it was getting a bit ridiculous even on medium, so we have it down on low. Weather effects are still on. Weather effects are merely visual. They don't actually affect the gameplay or the input you put into the controller. They don't affect that. They just affect visual stuff like the ball sliding off a certain angle after you've passed the ball, or your players slipping if they're playing in rainy weather and stuff like that. But it doesn't actually affect whether they can make the pass or not. It just affects how they look when making that pass. which I don't mind at all. So the effects are on. Sprint speed has been changed. It's on 34 for both the user and the CPU. We have acceleration also modified. For the user, it's on 49. For the CPU, it's on 48. It's on 48 for the CPU because you just constantly have this edge on you throughout every difficulty, right? Especially when they receive the ball, they just have like this jittery motion all the time, right? And we slowed that just a bit down to 48. Short error for the user is on 59, and short error for the CPU is on 52. Now, because we have lowered down the difficulty that we're using to strictly be on world class, we're trying to make this as difficult as possible as well. So you'll see that the error sliders for the user are higher than the CPU, meaning we will be more prone to making errors. In this case, we will be prone to making more errors when shooting. Our error is on 59, their error is on 52. Similarly with pass error, the user pass error is on 74 and the CPU pass error is on 60, so they will make less errors when passing and you will make more. Now we'll move over to shot speed. Shot speed is on 42 for both the user and the CPU. And then we'll move over to pass speed. Pass speed is one where the user will have an advantage actually over the CPU, but this kind of ties into the pass assistance you'll see towards the end of the video, which works hand in hand with this, right? Now the pass speed for the user is on 30. Again, way under that 50 default, right? But then the pass speed for the CPU is all the way down to 12, so significantly less for the CPU. This is one of the key sliders in slowing the game down. If you find that the game is too fast, pass speed is one of the ones that really slow the game down. You'll see the gameplay right here. It's much slower than the default settings. It's much slower just simply with that one setting. You slow it on the speed just a bit, you lower the acceleration by 1 or 2, and you significantly, hash down that pass speed, and it's a completely different game, at least in terms of speed. So that's a very, very important one there. Injury frequency stays the same, 75 user, 75 CPU. Injury severity stays the same, 35 for the user, 35 for the CPU. Then we move over to goalkeeper ability, 59 for the user, 59 for the CPU. And then marking, another one where you'll see a big difference between the user and CPU values. The marking for the user is up to 75, and the marking for the CPU is down to 44. Now, what does marking even do? Right now, marking is just how tight the defenders are to the guy on the ball, right? Now, one of the main things I was complaining about in that video that I kind of was just ranting following this update is how your defenders just keep backing off and backing off and backing off for whatever reason. The CPU defenders don't seem to do this as much, but the user defenders do. Like the CPU controlled user defenders usually do this, where they just back off and give the guy all kinds of space, and then you end up conceding goals. Now we combat that by increasing the marking so high for the CPU. Right now, there'll be instances where your players do get pulled out of position, where they're trying to be too tight and they get pulled out of position. But that's just one of the consequences that come with this, right? And that's why the marking for the CPU is lower. Because if you increase it to high for the CPU, specifically after this update, they're just constantly out of position. The defenders never hold their line. The defenders are not defending in a manner that makes sense. They're not pressing when they should, they're not dropping back when they should. They're just constantly pressing the whole time and are constantly out of position, and you do not want that. So we have it much lower. They'll be a bit more conserved, but you'll see another setting later that'll make sure that when passes are there to be intercepted, when they have to engage aggressively, they will still do that. Another setting that has been lowered significantly is run frequency, all the way down to 18 for both the user and the CPU. Fewer runs means less up and down football, right? They're not making runs as often. I like having the control when to make a run, because you can manually generate a run for the player that's ahead of you, or like I think you can generate 2 runs at the same time as well for 2 players that are the guy on the ball. I like having that kind of control as well, right? So down to 18. The CPU still make runs, don't get me wrong, but just not as often. Now, as for positioning, we have the line height up to 62 for both user and CPU. The line length has been modified to 35, and we have the line width to 49. This is just about positioning your players, especially when you're defending, how high up your defensive line will be, how compact the defenders to the midfielders to the attackers, like those spaces, how compact those will be, and just how wide across the field they will defend. So those work as a set alongside the fullback positioning, which is on 68, again modified. So the line height, length, width, and fullback positioning all work as a set in order to make this function optimally. The user power bar is on 44. This just aids in the passing feeling a bit too sluggish, or the shooting as well sometimes, so it doesn't feel like you have to hold the pass button or the shoot button for way too long, right? So lowering it down to 44 helps in that. It's not that much of a difference, but try it out. I think you will notice it. And then finally, we have first touch control error, a vast difference between the two values. For the user, it's on 8. For the CPU, it's on 87. What does this do? This just refers to how much error goes into touching the ball for the first time after not touching it for a while, right? This refers to shooting first time. This refers to first time passes. This refers to a tackle. This refers to 50-50 tackles as well. So one thing we know throughout the years with FIFA and FC is the AI just continue passing the ball like prime Barcelona, as people usually say, right? With this, not as much. This is also important, working together with the pass speed to make sure that happens less. It does happen, especially against the good teams, but that's only where it should happen, right? So this makes it way more realistic. The CPU sliders have remained on tactical. There was a point where I had settings for these, but the issue I have is every team plays the exact same way. That's one thing I really don't like. If you modify the aggression, the build-up speed, and everything like that, right? Every team is going to play that way. Now, some games will be more difficult, some games will be easier, because some teams are better than others and they will adapt to that better, right? But every team comes out playing the same way. With tactical, some teams are more aggressive in tackles. Some teams like to keep possession more, right? Some teams are more direct, which is good, but it's at times less realistic. So this is one of those where I wish we could have more options in how to customize. I wish we could have more options in how to customize each specific tactic. So if you're coming up against a tiki-taka team, how do they set up? If you come up against a counter-attacking team, how do they set up? A kick and rush, so on. We're not there yet, so for now, just keeping it on tactical. We will then finally have the actual game settings, and these work together with the sliders to really give you guys the gameplay that you see on camera right now. I just want to pinpoint a few settings of most importance. Things such as manual through passing, semi-ground passing, all of these things are important, so don't ignore those as well. I'm just not focusing too much on them because they've been there throughout, right? So I'm just assuming that you guys have been using these as well, because I've explained multiple times in the past how the semi-ground passing ties into the pass error, how the manual through passing ties into the pass error, and the semi-shooting or the precision shooting ties into the shot error. You know, all these things have been explained in the past. But right now, one key thing we have changed is the pass block assistance. It is now on, it's been off. What does this do? This works with the marking. Specifically, remember when you said there's a setting later on that you guys will see that works with the marking. This is it. With pass block assistance on, your players are more aggressive. Your defenders will step out more, but not just yours, the AIs as well. When the pass is loose and it's there to be won, they'll go for it. If there's somebody about to pick up the ball in the half turn and potentially be in a dangerous situation, they'll go out there and try to close that guy down, right? I had it off previously because the defenders were relatively good at doing this specific task in FC 25. Right now, like I said, sometimes they just stand off, sometimes they give too much space, sometimes they're way too tight. It's not great. Now, I'm not saying this is perfect right now, far from it, mate, right? But we have pass block assistance on right now. And then another key setting that I have changed is the analog sprint. The analog sprint is now on. This for me just helps again in managing acceleration, be it from a defensive point of view when you're chasing down somebody on the ball, or from an attacking point of view when you are actually on the ball looking to accelerate away from a defender, right? Of course, the harder down you press on the sprint button, the more they will sprint, you know. So sometimes you don't want them to sprint too much, because if you have analog sprint off, as long as the sprint button is activated, they're fully sprinting as much as they can. And sometimes they may take heavy touches, right? Which makes sense, because if you're fully sprinting from a standstill, you're not going to have the best touch on the ball because you're just thinking about speed, which helps when you're running in like open in an open space. But sometimes you're not trying to do that, right? And yeah, we have analog sprint on. I just think it's the best way to go right now. Now guys, this has been a bit of a longer video than usual. I felt that it was necessary for us to explain a few settings. It was necessary for me to elaborate on why certain changes have happened, from the difficulty to the game settings to some of the sliders. This has been a very difficult set to come up with, and I hope you guys actually do go on to try it, that you do enjoy it, and most importantly, leave your reviews in the comments, what you think, what works, what doesn't work, what you've tweaked for yourself, a personal preference, you know, because at the end of the day, it's all down to how you want to enjoy the game. Like I said, these sliders are mainly set for world class. They would work for professional if you're playing at a lower level, and I'd say they would still work for legendary. I just don't enjoy the legendary difficulty. Now, if you are maybe finding the select too easy, ways to modify that is maybe by increasing the pass error, increasing the shot error, decreasing the marking even more so your defenders aren't as tight, going fully manual on passing or fully manual on shooting. I would look at those things first before going up to legendary. But that's just me. You guys let me know what you think. If you have enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it and subscribe as well. Still on the road to 5,000 subscribers, guys, so let's make sure we get there. If you guys are looking for any more exclusive content on the sliders, early access to these kinds of videos, make sure you are a member. We have a pretty sick, growing community over there. But I've been Quincy Crusher, and I'll see you guys next time.